Right, hi guys. If you haven't been watching any of my videos previously, I'm Andrew Overfield, and I'm attempting to be a composer. I don't know, but this blog, originally I was going to start my composer's guide, just like a bare basics type thing. There's going to be like a running series, hopefully on YouTube, which I was intending to start straight away. But then I went to a wonderful event called Game Music Connect down in London at the South Bank Centre, and that kind of took up a little bit of my time. Since then I've not been so very well over the last few days, so now I've got the opportunity to, I've set everything up and I'm going to do an overview of the event. Now, for anybody who's literally just watching this off the cuff and you don't know what it's about, Game Music Connect is essentially a day. It was the first time it's been on, and it's essentially a day where a group of composers, audio directors, basically anyone dealing with kind of game music audio that's in the know and working as a professional in the industry, get together like a panel and go through a few different panels. I basically give out a load of information. It's a big event for people to get together. Anybody who's interested in computer game music, anybody who's interested in making music in general, anybody who's interested in the way the industry is going, anybody who's interested in just gaming or game development. It's a great place to network as well. I've met a load of really cool people. So that's the overview of it. It is the brainchild of John Broomhall and James Hannigan. And basically they've put it all together and they've got themselves a great selection of people to sit on each panel and talk about different kind of different platforms and different kind of subjects all along the kind of game music area type thing. Sorry if I ramble a little bit. I know that the last video I put up was like 17 minutes. And I know that from a lot of feedback I've got, it's like stupidly long. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to break it down. So I'm going to pause, stop, start, and I'm going to go down into each panel and go like an overview for each panel that we had. So I'm going to talk about who was there, what they were doing there, what they were talking about. Now, I'm not going to talk about absolutely every single thing that went on down there. One, because it wouldn't be fair to the organisers if, you know, somebody just got up and said, "Whoa, this is exactly everything that went on," because, you know, it's their event and they've kind of put it out there for people to come down and obviously, you know, pay for the ticket and get that experience yourself. So it's going to be a short overview. There's also a lot of other information on the internet about it. You can go on the Game Music Connect's website. Plus there's been a few other articles and what have you that have been posted about it, which I'll be putting in the comments section below. Now, if you're watching this and you already know what Game Music Connect was, or you already are interested in game music, then also down below are going to be links to websites of each of the speakers and guests that they had on that day. Simply because if I just went through every single name and listed all of their, you know, all of their achievements in the gaming industry or achievements in the music industry itself, then that would just take probably about half an hour's worth of video. So I'm going to split it up into chunks, and then once it's all completed I'll edit it together and what have you. And on this side, kind of this direction, I'm going to put some annotations so you can just skip scene by scene by scene, just so you don't have to hear me rambling on. It is just basically going to be me sitting and talking. But hopefully, you know, you'll learn something from it. I might even learn something from it. I know that I found a lot of interesting information down at the event, and it was just overall a great day. So yeah, so I'm gonna go like it step by step, go through the introductions, and give a brief overview of what was said, what happened. And then at the very end I'm going to give my thoughts, my opinions, and any suggestions that they may sort of have for Game Music Connect 2014, which better be happening. So yeah, right, I'm sorry if this is a little bit dark, and I'm sorry if my accent is really bad to understand. It's north of England. Leeds is where I'm from. Very posh in Leeds, yeah. So. And we started off with a lovely gentleman named Stephen Deutsch. Now, Stephen Deutsch, among many of his accolades, is currently at Bournemouth University. and he's a professor, Professor Stephen Deutsch. And what he did is he came up and he gave sort of like an introduction to game music as a whole. So a lot of the things he was talking about is what we can learn from an industry that's essentially 50 years younger than other musical industries or entertainment industries like film. So if we look back at film and what we learned from, 50 years ago, they were doing things then. So they had the directors, they had audio directors, they had sound departments, they had everything like that. And the gaming industry is only just, well, I say only just, but it's quite young, and it's quite infantile compared to what music and sound has been like in the movie industry. He showed us a couple of examples of evolution of sound in films. One was things like the Psycho film, which he played the original of, and then he played a scene from the updated version. And we saw the differences between sound created then, sound created now, how it was interpreted. But essentially, his original speech was about immersion and engagement. Now, immersion and engagement is how, if somebody's already playing the game, so you've got a character, or you've got a young kid or adult or whoever, you've got a player playing the game, they're already immersed in the game. So what does music do for the game? Does it make it better? Do we need music at all? These were somewhat controversial questions that came up. But I believe that music is great for a film. Music is great for a game. I think that without music in games, it would literally just be a little bit boring. I mean, sometimes less is more, which I'll go into a little bit later detail. But he was asking, do we need the music if the player is already immersed? And I believe yes. I mean, growing up playing computer games kind of for the best part of my life. Music in the game is rewarding. It's intense. It's a indication of something happening, whether it be good, bad, something to induce fear. I mean, I was brought up listening to the great fucking works of Nobuo Uematsu, and playing Metal Gear Solid and listening to Harry Gregson Williams' soundtrack on that, and it's, if you didn't have that in there, or if not as much thought had been put into it, then you wouldn't have that experience. You wouldn't be able to listen to Ares' theme 10 years later and go, oh, she died. By the way, she died. If you haven't played it yet, if you haven't, and I've spoiled it for you, then sorry dudes. But anyway, sorry, I've got some notes which I've written down, so if I'm looking down, it's not because I don't have to look at the camera or anything like that. It's because I've got a load of notes that I've been writing out for the last few days when I've got a bit of chance. So yeah, I'm getting that all in there. So yeah, he was going on about what we can learn from the film industry and how we can develop that. Things like needing audio directors. Now, audio directors is something I'm going to go into a little bit later on in the video. But yeah, audio directors are a key, essential part of the gaming industry. That's what I believe in these days. They are the people that help do the hiring and firing, they help manage the budgets, and these are things that the film industry have had for years and years and years and years. Somebody directing it, somebody directing the visual aspect, somebody directing the audio aspect of it. So yeah, so he gave a great presentation and a great introduction to what we were all expecting to be a fantastic day at Game Music Connect. Okay, so thank you to Professor Stephen Deutsch. So basically, Soundcard to Symphony. It was a follow-on from Stephen's introduction, and it was a lot about, once again, immersion in the entertainment, what we can add in music to what the gamer is already feeling. Now, is the music telling you what the gamer should feel, or is the music telling you what the player is feeling? Now, obviously, in the later part of it, it goes into interactive audio, so that's where the audio is being developed based on your actions within the game. So technically, it's telling you how you should be feeling. But what happened was, the panel got up and they all give a brief introduction of who was who, what they've done, and how they've essentially got into the industry. And we found out little pieces of key information from each of the kind of respective speakers of how they've got into the industry, what they've done to get into it, some sacrifices that they've had to make, and generally what the plans for the future are and what they're doing right now. And it was really, really good and informative because you're seeing things from loads and loads of different perspectives. So yeah, they give quite a bit of information about what they do, how they've got into computer game music, its relevance and its future. We got to hear a lot of information that I assumed that if they'd have said, "Put your hands up, guys, and ask a question," those questions would have already been answered. So yeah, that was a great thing. So that was that short little snippet on Sound Carter Symphony. Right, next up is called The Music Machine, and this was a panel which was, I think, probably one of the most important panels of the day. And I'm not saying that because any of the other panels would have been any less informative or anything like that, but I can guarantee that at least, you know, if say they were out of 100%, 90% of the room were aspiring composers, at least 80% of those composers wanted to ask certain questions which were all answered by the panel. So featured Adele Cutting, Paul Lipson, Stephen Lord, Alistair Lindsay and Martin O'Donnell. Like I say, more about them is going to be down below, but you should know who they are. And if you don't, then you'll find out all the information at the end of the video. So yeah, basically this was the kind of top dogs in the industry, the ones that sign the checks, the ones that do the hiring and firing, the ones that do the organisation. Now each one of them, thankfully, has got a composing background, so they were all sat up on that stage, possibly in a position where we are right now. They've possibly already been there, already seen kind of the highs and lows of the industry from their own point of view. But now they are the people that do the hiring and the firing. So these are the guys that hire teams of composers for certain video game franchises. So we're talking things like the Halo franchise, we're talking things like the Wonder Book franchise, Harry Potter franchise, you know, we're talking all things like that. And it's great to see some big names up there. So yeah, they were basically all going on about structuring of audio in games, and I'm not talking about structuring as in how you write it and how you implement it into game. I mean structuring as in what sort of composers are doing what sort of music, who they are getting at the moment. And one of the things that Paul Lipson ended up bringing up was the radar, and that was the first time we heard of the radar. And now it's becoming more and more of a common term in you know, between other composers, oh, how to get on that person's radar, how to get on this person's radar. And it was really, really informative because you got to find out, kind of in a sense, how to actually get on somebody's radar. And when you say on somebody's radar, I mean an audio director, somebody who's going to say, you know, I like that kind of stuff, let's do some work together. So it was really, really exciting because I imagine a lot of people in the audience that were spectating it will have been wanting to just delve into their minds and say, oh, listen to my stuff, give me a job, you know, that kind of thing. But you must refrain from that because these guys don't want their ass kissing or anything like that. But anyway, they were talking about things like budgeting, things like giving cue sheets out, things like having schedules and timetables. It's not just, alright, give this person a brief and give back some piece of music. So it's all about size of the music as well. And the actual time span. If you've got a deadline to meet where you need to get right, we need to be in pre-beta by this date and we need to be at this and this date, you need to be on the ball, and that's where the audio director comes in, because the audio director is going to be saying, we'd like this by this, we'd like this by this, we'd like this by this, and that they're only going to hire the people that they think are good enough for the job. So that's why I say this whole radar thing came up, and it, like I say, it was really, really informative, and it kind of, for me, I mean, I said in an interview earlier on that it makes it so that when you're spending all the long hours, you know, in the studio, and you think, oh God, I can't get that bass right, and I can't, that seems, I'm you know, I've still got the part-time job, and I'm still doing this, I'm still doing that, and am I ever going to get it? And it seems like these guys are just stood up on stage saying, well, you know, you got to do this, this, and this, and it makes that kind of dream of being able to kind of go and create music for, you know, for a living, do something you love as a career. And do something you love that can put food on the table as well, as opposed to anyone that's in the retail and, you know, food establishments and things like that. It kind of brings that dream from, oh, sky high, it's a pie in the sky type thing, to a little bit, no, that's achievable. I suppose it was reassurance. I mean, there were some kind of home truths said, like you know, Paul said, you know, there's some people just need to stay at home, and you know, I kind of agree with him to a fact, but then I also agree that everybody anybody who's interested in creating music can create music. But yeah, some people just will find it a hard time, and some people won't. I'll go into that a little bit later on kind of networking and speaking to people and what have you. But it's really good to find out about what happens in the music machine, the people that make the decisions, which seems a little bit different to other industries, as well as you know, something that Marty turned around and says, you've got to know who's the goose. And what I mean by that is you've got to know who's signing the checks, because if you're kind of doing everything that one person says but that person actually doesn't have the full authority on the project or on the audio of it and some things like that, you're going to get yourself into trouble. So yeah, so that was the music machine. Right, so the next panel was entitled Game Music React. And Game Music React was extremely informative, and it was so fun to watch. It kind of, like another YouTuber has already kind of mentioned, Daniel James, I'll put a link in his profile a little bit later on, you probably already know who he is, that it kind of, when you think, oh, is that how you do it, is that how you do it, these guys were saying, yeah, actually this is how you do it. It's things like vertical scoring as opposed to linear scoring, but more on a little bit of that later. Game Music React was basically a bunch of composers, all kind of established in their field, talking about exactly how they do things. So we had Jason Graves, obviously of Tomb Raider, Dead Space, Joris de Man, obviously Killzone, James Hannigan and Richard Jacques, and they basically got up and we had a presentation. Initially started off from Richard Jacques, and he was going on about the 007 Bloodstone game that he scored for. Amazing game, by the way. If you manage to get a copy, please pick it up, because it's a great game. Yeah, and he was going on about, the majority of it was the interactivity of it, and how the interactive audio element can be layered up. So you'll have, say, you'll be into a situation, you're going to a level and you have the level's theme playing, and that'll be your level 1, and then you'll have your level 2 where you get a little bit more intense, so you might have a bad guy over there and you get this, that and the other over there, right, okay, and then you have your action sequences where, oh shit, they've seen me, do I fight, do I run, do I do anything? So you've got all these kind of different little situations all happening in one place. And this is where it goes back to how the gamer can create their own sounds. Oh, I say create their own sounds, create their own audio intensity. So if they decide they don't want to kill that person, they don't want to attack that person, then they could go through the entire level and a stealth and be on that low, you know, that. Sorry if that looks a bit weird. They have the, you know, they can kind of create their own adventures, I suppose. So he was talking about how there was layering. And he gave a few audio examples of a couple of levels from 007 Bloodstone, which turned out to be fantastic. I mean, everyone really enjoyed it. And like I say, it was a little bit more reassurance to that when we're doing something back here, you know, you sat in your studio and you think, oh, am I doing it right? These guys are doing it. These guys are doing the layering, they're doing the texturing effects. So it was really good to hear things like that. Unfortunately, we had Joris up there as well, and he was talking along the similar lines, but his presentation, there was something wrong with the visuals. I think he had to change from a Windows laptop to a Mac, and there was a little bit of problem there, so unfortunately we didn't get to see that, but we all still got kind of the gist of everything that he was trying to tell us. Jason got up and he gave us a presentation, obviously, on the thing that he's kind of just recently done, the Tomb Raider game. And it was great in the fact that he gave us things like how the music intensifies depending on the actions of the character, not just if I'm fighting that person, or if I'm, you know, stalking away, or if I'm in stealth mode, or if I'm in full-on battle mode. It was things like music intensifies a little bit more the faster the player fires the gun. And he'll talk about stingers, and stingers are basically what comes in when you're changing from one part to another. So it'd be like, you know, that kind of thing. Obviously, stinger, it won't be as simple as just a bling, you know, Metal Gear Solid maybe. But yeah, so we're talking a lot about the implementation of it, how it affects the user, how it affects the gamer, and trying to immerse yourself. So we've got quite a good, few good video and audio examples from Jason there. And yeah, it was really informative. So essentially that's all we were talking about. So that was, yeah, Game Music React. I suppose the whole point of it was how the music reacts to the decisions of the gamer, and how the gamer reacts to the way that his decisions are then placed into the game. Really, really, really informative, and I think that is something that is definitely needs to be kept in future panels for future Game Music Connects. Okay, now the next one that we came across was called Platformer's Perspective, and essentially this was Paul Lipson and Alistair Lindsay shared along with John Broomhill, and it was Sony, Microsoft. They were both giving each other's perspective on obviously the respective platforms. We had a lot of great information from each side. There was a lot of talk about budgeting and things like that, but the main thing again was once mentioned the whole radar thing. Now we've got a few good examples from Alistair Lindsay about the whole Diggy's Nightcrawler and the music that was put into that. And there was a lot of talk about compositional teams, having teams of people working on things, and how both platforms are now aiding and assisting independent developers, in their production. So whether it be increasing production values, whether it put more money into recording, more money into the audio implementation of a game, it may just be that an audio sound designer or composer just needs better equipment, so they may send somebody down to their offices or workspace and think, whoa dude, you can't work like this, you know, you've got no windows and there's dead rats in the corner. No, we need to clean this up for you. It could be something as simple as that. And it was great to hear from both perspectives. It was also great to see that it was like, obviously Alistair being from over in the UK, and even though Paul's got his, you know, he comes over to the UK quite a lot, he's got the kind of American perspective of things. And we got the whole, like, for example, people was one of the questions that that was kind of pointed out was, you know, do we need big composers for big games? Now we've already had a slight crossover with your Zimmers and your Gregson Williamses and people like that composing for video games, and there was talk of like whether or not adding a high-named composer and extending that budget, because obviously it'll cost a lot more money to hire, you know, Hans Zimmer than it would to do me. You know, having a big name, and one thing that Alistair said was, well, no, if it doesn't benefit the project aesthetically or sonically, then there's no point in throwing money at it until it works, type thing. That would just be a case of publicity. But in a sense, the overheads would be more, so they would need to shift more units for them to, you know, kind of be kind of profitable, I suppose, because they've got to think about the business end of things. And like I say, once again, the whole radar thing came up, and Paul was talking extensively about that, about basically getting on their radar and talking to people, and it wasn't just about simply just sending them an email saying, listen to my stuff. Now, what was quite refreshing for me was the fact that they turn around and says, yeah, we do listen to a lot of stuff. So people give us submissions and things like that. That's all well and good, and yeah, that's fantastic. And sometimes we're going to hear something that's like, oh wow, we need to do something with this guy. But a lot of the times when somebody sends you an email, it's a bit of a faceless message. It's you don't know that person, you've never conversed with them, you don't know what the personality is like. Yeah, they produce some fantastic music, but they might have spent 3 weeks preparing that email for you, so they may procrastinate like I don't know what. So yeah, we got a good idea of the business perspective end of things. Once again, the questions that John gave out to the kind of panel, to Lipson and Lindsay, were fantastic questions. The questions that I assumed that, I know I wanted to ask, and they were answered proficiently as well. We got a lot of information about the upcoming next generation platforms, which are obviously going to be the PS4 and the Xbox One, and about how each developer is going to aid independent developers, as a publisher, I suppose, I think, in creating much better content for things like the PlayStation Store, the PSN Store and the XBLA. So I think we're going to see a lot more exciting ventures coming out. There's going to be a lot of bigger kind of third-party games. So hopefully we'll see more things like the Journey series coming out, and hopefully you'll see all these guys that sat in bedrooms developing games night after night after night after night, while also working jobs and things like that. Maybe we'll see those come into fruition. I mean, obviously they've got to be pitched correctly, but still, you know, there seems to be a lot of support now from both Microsoft and Sony. So it was good to hear that. It was good to hear a little bit more on the kind of business and fiscal side of things. So that was great. Right, next up, Game Connect USA, Game Music USA, Game Music USA. My God, I'm looking at the schedule here thinking, oh God. Game Music USA, Jason Graves, Jesper Kidd, Martin O'Donnell, and chaired by Paul Lipson. Wow. It was a bit of an eye-opener, I must say, but we got things, basically a perspective from how things are from the other side of the pond. I say across the pond, I wouldn't want to swim it. But yeah, about things like development of games, about how people have experienced, how each of the composers, I suppose, have experienced the differences between you kind of Western cultures of America, and there was a lot of America jokes going on and things like that. It was really kind of informal and relaxed, and how they compare to working with, say, European counterparts and developers over here. And there was a lot of information thrown out. We got to hear a lot more about Marty and his work on the Halo franchise, and how Bungie have now kind of gone their own way, and they're working on the whole Destiny thing. So and the album that he's worked on with Paul McCartney, that's quite a feat. Is that, you know, when you get to work with someone as established in the music industry like that. But yeah, we got to hear a lot of the differences between the cultures, between the Americans and the Europeans and what have you, and how certain things like budgets and things like that. So say where in America, say they might have, say, bigger budgets for bigger games. I mean, obviously you've got your huge franchises, you've Call of Duties and things like that, and over here maybe might not have as many budgets and things like that. So like we heard a lot from Jason about, say, how he got his first job as well, and what sort of things he was offered when he was composing the Tomb Raider soundtrack, and he then decided, you know, things like, well, Lara's going to be on an island on her own, you know, and you're not going to hear a huge orchestra on an island, so let's cut out the orchestral budget, I'll record it at home, well, in the home studio. And that was really kind of, it was refreshing to hear that somebody as kind of established as what Jason Graves is nowadays is turning around and saying, no, I'm not going to record it in a great big orchestra. We're not going to go to Abbey Road. We're not going to get 80 musicians in there. We're going to do it, you know, step by step. There seemed to be a huge removal of egos, and that's not just with this panel. That's with the entire event. There was no egos. There's nothing egotistical about it. Everyone seemed to be, you know, when anybody was asked, oh, who's your favourite composer at the moment and what have you, and this guy would point to his left, you know, and Jesper would point to Joris, and then Joris would point to Jason. It's like, it was great. It was great to see that so many people are actual, you know, kind of admirers of each other's work. So that was great, and it was refreshing. Like I say, the ego side of things was removed, which I kind of not expected, but as a Brit, we kind of get brought up that America is quite, you know, it's quite loud and quite, you know, kind of in your face type thing, and that's not a bad thing. That can be a great thing at times, and that the British are more reserved and, ooh, we have some crumpets today, that kind of thing. And it was just nice to see these guys that are kind of talking about the American content and the American style of producing audio for games. They were just like, yeah, we chilled out, you know. I mean, it was fantastic. It was really good. So that was a lot of information that was given out there. Like I say, I won't go into too much detail because you didn't buy a ticket. But yeah. So Game Music USA again. You know, it was really good panel. Okay, finally, we ended off with questions and answers. It is exactly how I would say is on the tin. We had John Broomhill at the helm, chairing it again. We had Marty O'Donnell, we had Jesper Kidd, Jason Graves, James Hannigan, Richard Jakes, Joris the Man, and there was basically, it was put your hand up and ask him a question. I think probably the most popular question we had, by a young man from kind of the front of the audience, he was like, you know, with kind of pre-synthesized music and algorithms that can create music within a computer game, do any of you fear the future? Do any of you fear that somebody can just put the algorithm into a computer and say, bum 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 bum, the player can play it, there's no composer needed, blah 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 blah, they'll play it and it will generate music based on their actions and experiences in the game? And the kind of big response was no. because you will always need human emotion. A computer cannot convey human emotion. The best quote of the day was when Jesper turned around and said, you can't teach a kid, you can't teach a computer to have a bad childhood. And I suppose it's true, because a lot of composers and a lot of music makers, songwriters, you convey a lot of your emotions into your music. So if you're having a bit of a rough time at the moment, you might write some sad music. If you're writing based on an experience that you may have had when you're younger, that was a great time, then you think, because it reminds me of when I went to that fair with my parents, or when I did this and when I did that. So human emotion, that was a fantastic question, and like I say, everybody just completely clapped their hands at that. It was a fantastic response. There were a lot of other questions asked. People started talking about like the radar again, blunt questions like, can I send you some of my stuff? Not as straightforward as that, but basically people were like, how do I get on you guys' radar? I think that was more directed at, say, like Martin and Paul, even though Paul wasn't on that chair at the moment. But yeah, it was a lot of great questions, and to be honest, a lot of the questions that people asked, it seemed as though they were not repetitions, but I think that they've been answered in some shape or form. Now, just remember, anybody who was at the Q&A and who was like, I think they may have skirted around the answer and what have you. I don't think any answers were skirted around, but just bear in mind that there may have been, at least 100 or so composers sat in the audience, and you're asking current composers who are in the field right now questions, and you can't delve too deep, because at the end of the day, essentially, without being too harsh, you're their competition, they're your competition. So they're not going to sit down and give you all the trade secrets of the world, are they? And that's not a bad thing. That's nothing to be offended by. It's only the same as if you were sat up on that stage. So if you said to someone, tell me exactly what I can do to get to you, they're not going to turn around and say, well, catch me on a Tuesday at 5 o'clock because it's just when I get home from work, or it's just when just when I finish my tea and I'm relaxing. They're not going to say things like that, because there's still a competitive edge in the business. So I think the thing was not to kind of harass them like that. But either way, I feel that all the questions were answered quite proficiently and with enough information for everyone to, beer today, for everyone to kind of walk away and think, yeah, I'm satisfied with that. I actually asked a question which I got a really, really, really good response from Richard Jakes, and I basically asked the panel, I says, we're all aspiring composers, you're already up there because you're kind of skilled and experienced in the field that you're in and successful, and I says, are there any mistakes that you guys have made or you guys know of that we could learn from? Because it's all about learning from mistakes. You should only learn from your own mistakes. But if you can learn from the mistakes of others, then it's a bonus. You can bypass a lot of, for want of a better word, fuck-ups. And Richard gave us a great example of, of a time when somebody who was meant to be working for him had made a mistake. And he gave us an example of what the mistake was. I'm not going to go into it because it's a bit, it's not for me to say. But yeah, he gave us a really, really good example of that. And you kind of walk away thinking, you know what? I think I may have done that at one point in my life. I think I may have, so it's good things to avoid, and I got a really, really good response from that. And then everyone else in the panel kind of gave like their own, don't hassle people. If they've seen your stuff, they've seen it. If they're going to give you a decision on whether they're going to use it or not, that'll be up to them. It's using up their time. Everybody's got the job, everybody's got the business aspect of things, everybody's got the networking aspect of things, which I assume for the panellists as well will have been a networking experience for them. It will have been all about networking and as well as sharing information, having a good day. But yeah, Q&A session was fantastic. It seems to be, like, due to the popularity of it, they've got some great sponsors in as well. The popularity of it would mean to say that hopefully there will be a GMC 14, and if there is, you can guarantee on my ticket at least. I don't think there was a stone left unturned, and for any of you guys who missed it, that's really, really unfortunate. So hopefully you'll be down there next year, or maybe at a GDC next year as well, because I'm going to try and get down there. So yeah. Okay, I'm just going to give a few of my own thoughts on Game Music Connect. As far as something in the field of kind of really delving into the depths of computer game music, I think it is a one-of-a-kind type event. I think James and John have done a fantastic job of getting everybody together, getting the right questions, getting everything in place so that everybody enjoyed it. I mean, we all got a fancy bag, and in that bag came like a couple of freebies, a bit of promotional material you can see from the sponsors, obviously. A couple of freebies, a nice little program just to tell you what's going on and things like that, with pictures of everyone on the back. Free water and this weird cold coffee type thing. Coffee that's cold. I don't get it, but still, it was nice anyway. It was a bit sugary, but it was nice. We got a couple of freebies, download code to get something off the internet and what have you. It turned out to be really, really, really awesome. So yeah, there was plenty there, and as far as value for money goes, spot on. At first I was a little bit sceptical, because I thought the price of the ticket compared to what sort of information I might learn, but it wasn't until the actual end of the day, I hate to sound like a skeptic, but it wasn't until the end of the day where I actually thought, wow, this is fantastic value for money. I went down there on my own, not really knowing anyone. I actually did bump into a couple of people that I'd known. One of my old tutors were down there, which was quite cool. But yeah, I'd gone down there on my own in the mindset that I'd like to learn some information and maybe contact a couple of people, do a bit of networking. That's the kind of thing that you do. You've got to meet people, you've got to get out there. I didn't realise how much of an impact it would make on my career and the career of everybody else's, and kind of the knowledge and enhancements that it's made to everyone. Afterwards, we all had a little bit of an hour's session just in the foyer, just having drinks. And it was a case of the speakers came out and we all had a chat. I mean, everyone was very, very polite and everyone was very professional. There were a lot of cases where CDs are handed out, business cards are handed out, that kind of thing, this, that and the other. And I was even approached by a couple of people, which I was really, really, really chuffed about. And one of the big things I learned is the gaming industry, as well as a lot of the other industries that are part of the entertainment business, the film industry, the music industry, it's about who you know. Sometimes it's about what you know, but a lot of the case it's about who you know. And going to events like Game Music Connect, things like Paul Lipson said, these are the sort of events you need to be showing your face at to keep your face in their radar, keep your presence known in their radar. A few people that I spoke to that were down there already turned around and says to me, let's keep in touch, which is fantastic, because it's an open door, it's an open invitation. Not to harass people as well, neither. Because like I say, there were a lot of times when you'd be talking to someone and someone would go, oh, give me a CD. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's all well and good trying to give someone information, but do you know that the biggest kind of thing that I learnt was personality. Generally, if somebody likes you and you get along with them, then there may be something in the future for kind of a mutual relationship going on, potentially work. If not, then fine. Don't try and get along with someone who you're just not going to get along with. If there's a personality clash, if you've got two people that have got big personalities and that you're both trying to battle, or one of you is trying to battle to get the other person's attention and things like that, it's just not going to happen. So the best thing is upfront and honesty. And I suppose the last thing these guys want to hear, that have been composers for so many years and what have you, is once again talk about, oh, how do I get into the industry, how do I get into the industry? Now, the refreshing thing that I found, and I've said that word refreshing again, the refreshing thing that I found is I started music about 17 years ago. That's when I kind of picked up a guitar and thought, fuck it, I'm going to give it a go. I can't play football, so I'm going to play guitar. And since then, been in a few bands, done as much kind of like local circuit gigs as I can. Currently in a band at the moment, which is quite cool, Belladonna Haze, quite awesome. But yeah, in the music industry, it's completely different. You meet people. I mean, people in back alley clubs that are very pretentious and very up their own arse, for want of a better word, and they're just because of the headline act in a pub in the middle of Leeds. I don't know what it's like anywhere else in the country, but you get that kind of thing. And here we are sharing a couple of drinks and chats with audio directors and lead composers and people that are composing for what they're now calling quad A games, quad A rated, or the old AAA rated games. And these are just guys like me and you. And this is the thing, if you're ever trying to kind of chat to them, what have you, the last thing I assume they want is going, oh, like me, and we'll be friends, and we'll, I think it's very much, like I say, just getting along with people, because these are guys that have got to go home and pay the bills. You know, they've got to put the washing on. They've got to probably endure another episode of Coronation Street because the girlfriends like it, or whatever. They're just like me and you. They need their sleep. They need their rest. They need their social time. And it was really, really refreshing to kind of talk to these people and just be laid back and chilled out. And you wouldn't believe how open people will be, is instead of going, oh, we need to talk to you because you're a composer and I'm a composer and we need to get some work together, just going, hey up mate, you alright? How are we doing? Good day. You know, that kind of thing. It might not work for everybody, you know, but from my experience, it's like being yourself is the best thing you could ever be. And if somebody's going to befriend you, or somebody's going to be, you know, start a mutual relationship with you over that, then that's great. If they're not, then that's even better, because the last thing you want to do is 6 months down the line, halfway through a project that you've forced upon somebody, or, you know, you've tried to force upon yourself, is you not being able to deliver, and then the personality clash comes back. So the networking side of it was absolutely fantastic. The work that it's generated since then, and the friendships it's generated since then, have been amazing. I mean, you wouldn't believe, like I say, I've played in pubs and clubs and bands and in and out bands and recorded music and done all sorts for years and years and years. And that's not me being big-headed. That's me kind of, I suppose I half-arsed it for a while, and then I tried, and I realised that kind of composing was more my thing. But the amount of arseholes that you meet that are maybe lead singers of bands, and they're just like, man, I'm fucking rock star, you know. I mean, I think I was like that at one point. But these composers that are, you know, the top of their game, and they're the kind of guys that you'll see on the back of PlayStation cases, you know, like, boom, Tomb Raider, you know, Jason Graves signed it for me. Said, yeah, it's cool, just fantastic kind of guy. That says, I'm sorry, I'm a bit of a fanboy, but you know, absolutely fantastic. You know, it was such a great time. And then afterwards, we all went out for a few drinks to a local bar, and the night just went on. And, you know, there was a lot of music talked about, there was a lot of computer games talked about, and then there was just a lot of general chatting crap that went on about with everyone. There was drinks flying. It was such a fantastic time. And that's not to say that if there is going to be another GMC, which there better be, that, you know, it'll always be like that. Obviously people have schedules, people have things to do and what have you. But it was such a relaxed atmosphere, and I thought it would be a little bit more intense and what have you. It was great to finally meet a few of you guys that I've known from the internet for the last year or so. It was fantastic to meet you guys as well. Russell Bell, an amazing composer. I'll put his links down at the bottom. And like I mentioned previously, Daniel James. I also got in touch with a guy called Sam, who goes by the name of the Sound Architect. He's got like an online website going on where he's essentially an audio designer himself. But he also runs this magazine, which has also done a really, really good review of this, which I'll put down in the comments a little bit later on. And a few of the people that are all in the same boat, we're all kind of hungry composers or hungry sound designers or engineers wanting to get that step. And it's good to know that, you know, when you're at home putting all the long hours into the studio, that you're not just the only person in the world where you feel as though your music's not being listened to. And everyone has their own different reasons for getting into the industry. Some people have been brought up with game music and they've been immersed in it in other ways. Some people want to try and make a difference. Some people want to be able to work alongside some of the greatest names in kind of video game development in the world. Everyone has their own reasons, but it's good to share a drink with all these guys and say, dude, do you remember this when you tried doing this? And yeah. I'm sorry, I've really rambled on, and this might even be longer than the last video I put up, like a 17-minute review of a keyboard. My God. But yeah, the composer's guide type thing is coming up. I just need a little bit of time. I've got to work some more hours at work and what have you at the moment, so just make up for some lost time. So it's probably going to be within a week or so. The picture thing that I've had up, you know, I've got some work. No, nice. I'm doing a little bit of a short video for a guy that's a local guy, a filmmaker in Leeds, and I'm going to put his details in the comments below. This is going to be a huge comment section. What else? Oh yes, received from Florida a script for a short film, which I've been asked to compose for, which is great. I mean, the kind of dream is to do video games, and only simply because I'm just a game freak. I'm a cute huge fanboy of loads of computer game series. I always thought, I need to be on that. But yeah, I'm scoring this for a friend of mine in Florida. I just kind of met over the internet and what have you, and he's really, really excited about it. So that should be quite cool to do. As well as a few other projects in the pipeline, but it's, like I say, it's not about what you can do. I mean, you can put the greatest songs in the world up on a SoundCloud or up through a licensing company that has royalty-free music, and you can send 1,000,001 emails out in the world and never hear anything back, or never have many kind of listeners to your SoundClouds or your YouTubes and things like that. It's about getting out there, guys. It really is. And that's just from one day. That is one day. I mean, 27 years on this planet, and I've been out the one time and met all these great guys, and the networking side of things is the most important thing. Now, I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea and think, right, next time I go down I'm going to have shitloads of business cards and CDs just to throw out everywhere. That's not the sort of networking you need to be doing. You need to be finding people that are in the same boat as you, independent developers, indie games companies that are looking for, people that are just starting out. So your budgets are going to have extreme restraints on. They might even be paying it out of their own student finance. So if you're thinking about getting paid for the next big Call of Duty game, that's not going to happen straight away. You've got to build up a little bit of a reputation, and you've got to build up friendships. Classic example, Spielberg and Williams. Those guys that were brought together at a very, very early stage, and they are still together, working together. Obviously they've done their own things in their own separate ways, but they are a fantastic team that have worked together. Who else? Let's have a think. I don't know, I forget. But yeah, they're great partnerships. I know I'm talking about films, but they're great partnerships. I mean, look at Nobuo Uematsu and Hironobu Sakaguchi from the Final Fantasy series. They were a partnership, and they were a match made in heaven. I mean, that's been kind of a lifeblood of my kind of musical inspiration for years and years and years and years now. You've got to kind of meet like-minded people and just be cool and just be yourself. And if somebody doesn't like you for the way you are, then fine. But there will always be someone that you'll get along with. And don't try and force a friendship. So I'm going to kind of wrap this up now. Like I say, there's been the annotations and what have you, so you can skip each scene and what have you. I'm really, really, really sorry for how long it's been. You guys must be bored out of your head right now. Well, you were bored from the keyboard review, I could tell that easily. I got messages like, dude, 17 minutes for a keyboard review. I'm like, yeah, I think it was 17, was it 17 minutes? Something like that. Anyway, it's like, yeah, I know, and I kind of really, really apologise for that. Very, very new to the whole YouTube vlog, blog, flungen thing. But yeah, so just to recap, Game Music Connect, if you are all interested in game development and audio implementation, or just finding out a little bit more about music for video games, do it. And I really guarantee you will not be disappointed. I mean, I was thinking, the hotel, the train, the tickets, the dinners and things like that. It is worth it. It is really worth it. So get saving for Game Music Connect 2014. And if John and James ever get around to seeing this video, what have you, thank you. And thank you to every single person that went down there as a spectator, and especially all to the guys who were on the panels. You provided an absolutely fantastic insight into the gaming industry musically, and the gaming industry as a whole as well, and what the future holds for the next platforms that we've got. It was great to see so many different varied views and opinions, but the one common thread that was throughout the whole thing is that everybody that got up on that stage loved music and they loved computer games. And it's like I was saying, it's a match made in heaven. It was fantastic to see so many guys up there. If I had any suggestions for Game Music Connect 2014, I'd say maybe Red Bull instead of the cold coffee. I don't know. I like warm coffee. I like it out of a kettle. No, but aside from that, possibly if there was to be one next year, maybe James and John might be able to sort out where instead of the questions and answers being, please sir, can I ask a question, which was really relaxed as well, by the way. We all had a microphone and was like, all right, okay, can I maybe have some preemptive type questions that maybe people have asked via your Facebook page or your Twitter page that you could then put to the panel at the very end. So then they could say, Mr. Jones from Gloucestershire turns around and says, why do you like ice cream? You know, like kind of pre-thought out questions that people might want to put to the panel for people that can't attend, and just to make things maybe like the Q&A run a little bit swifter, because I'm sure there was still quite a lot of questions that people were asking, or wanting to ask, sorry, that might not got round to doing, and may have not had the chance to ask each of the composers or kind of audio directors through various Twitters or Facebooks or anything like that. But from a personal point of view, it has been fantastic meeting you all. Like I say, there's going to be huge links and stuff down in the bottom just for you to kind of peruse. So if you think of a name, you think, oh, who's that guy? And you should be able to go down in the comments. Please leave a comment if you want to tell me how excruciatingly long this video has been. If there's anything you want to ask me, then please do. And hopefully I can learn from this, and hopefully I'll develop a way of making shorter YouTube videos. Yeah, maybe I should just stick to playing guitar. I don't know. But thanks very much, guys, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Okay.